Well, it hasn't managed it particularly well. And I think after the 2008 games, where Beijing violated the commitments it made on human rights, there was really no reason for the IOC to award games to Beijing again. But the IOC apparently didn't hesitate. And over the years, as in particular the genocide, the crimes against humanity in Xinjiang became clear, the IOC refused to use potential leverage it had to encourage or pressure China to change course.
It is interesting then, as you say, they've shied away from that, pursued Beijing as the venue, and then even became complicit in the way China has tried to manage some of its hot potatoes, like the former tennis player Peng Shuai. Why did they feel the need to even get involved in that situation?
Yeah, so the Peng Shuai affair is particularly interesting for the IOC. I think they felt pressure to engage because Peng Shuai was an Olympic athlete. She's been in the Olympics multiple times. Because other organizations, international tennis organizations, were being quite vocal. And so the IOC, with these Olympics coming up, I think had a responsibility and recognized they had a responsibility to do something. Unfortunately, what they've opted for, as you suggested, is to become complicit in abusing her rights along with the CCP. Everything we've seen since her initial social media post, where she alleged that she was the victim of sexual assault, suggests that the Chinese Communist Party and Chinese state security apparatus are making her decisions for her. That she's not freely making the statements she's making, appearing at the appearances she's making. And Thomas Bach and the IOC have been happy to play along with that. I think it's an effort to sort of save the reputation of the Olympics and of the IOC, but I think it's probably just tarnishing that reputation further.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because of course there are so many Chinese-born or overseas-born Chinese heritage athletes that are now performing under the banner of China at these Olympics. It's quite interesting and maybe questionable motivation that we can't necessarily answer, but it has been fascinating to see the way they've been treated.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen vast differences in the way that Americans who are representing China are, I should say, American-born athletes representing China are being treated in China, and really the difference comes down to the difference in performance. The examples here are Eileen Gu, the skier, and Zhu Yi, who's a figure skater who did not perform well. She fell during her performances. And I think what we've seen on display is the sort of the ethno-nationalist or race-based worldview that the Chinese Communist Party has embraced, and then now, in important ways, diffuses popular nationalism in China. Right, that worldview claims that everyone around the world who is of Chinese ethnicity sort of belongs to China, unless you somehow fail or shame the Chinese nation. Then you're not really Chinese. You suffer opprobrium at the hands of angry Chinese nationalists, and that's sadly what's happened to Zhu Yi in the wake of her falls this week.
It's questionable as to why China even embraced these American-born athletes to perform for them. What did they hope to achieve, and do you think it's backfired?
Well, I think this is all about upping the medal count, and China doesn't have the winter sports tradition of success that some other big countries do. That's something that they've been trying to achieve in the lead up to these games. Part of the pitch to the IOC was using these games to build winter sports in China. But because the talent level in China is lower than in some other countries, they've had to look around the world to bring athletes from abroad to perform for China and compete for China. I'm not sure it's fair to say it's backfiring. I obviously, in the case of Eileen Gu, she appears to be immensely popular and is perhaps popularizing skiing in a way that other athletes wouldn't. But it'll certainly be interesting to watch in the years ahead.
Yeah. What is your assessment? I mean, we're only a week into these games. There's been, there's been so many stories and controversies. Beijing so badly wanted a triumph. Are they going to get it?
I don't think that they will. And frankly, to me, what's interesting is that in the lead up to the 2008 Summer Games in Beijing, there was at least this cosmetic effort to um, to brush human rights abuses under the table, right? To put on a big smile and put on a big show for the international community. I don't think we've seen that same effort ahead of these games. I think that, in particular, the decision to to have a Uyghur athlete light the flame shows that China doesn't care as much about what the rest of the world thinks, and it's going to do what it wants to do, regardless of a foreign opinion. We've seen, at least in the United States, I'm not sure what the case in Australia is, but that ratings for these games are far down. People are not watching them. I think that China is not going to come out of these games with the sort of reputational boost that it did in 2008.
Yeah. Michael, really appreciate your thoughts on this. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.